Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Heaven NHL podcast preview for the upcoming playoffs. With me today is Joel.
Hello.
And he will be our NHL analyst for this show. So let's start with the first matchup out in the West, the Minnesota Wild versus the St. Louis Blues. So, Joel, who do you have in this matchup?
I think when you first look at this, you have to give St. Louis a bit of an edge. I like a lot about this team based on their improvements this year. Obviously, last year losing to the Blackhawks in the first round that was a tough draw right off the bat when you draw the defending Stanley Cup champions at the time. But I think they've come back and they've adjusted. Vladimir Tarasenko had a heck of a season. I think he is probably the breakout player of the year. He had 73 points, 37 goals, 36 assists. That's incredible. You know, they needed someone like him to really step up. I think they found their true star player. They had, David Backes, TJ Oshie, Paul Stastny. They had several guys who obviously were very good contributors, but now they have a real star, and I think this is great for them. I think they'll easily win this series.
I agree that the Blues will probably win this series, but I can't take out the Wild just yet. I think the Blues will probably win in 7, but the way the Wild are playing, they have a great team atmosphere led by Zach Parise and probably come out with Zach Palmaville and Ryan Suter. Right now they're just playing like a great team. That what does worry about me a little bit is their goaltending situation hasn't been exactly great lately. They've had 3 different goalies get over 1,000 minutes, so that means they haven't had a lot of stability at the goaltending position. But I think the leadership, especially of Zach Parise, can get them through this round.
Yeah, you mentioned the goalie situation. St. Louis has had a little bit of an interesting situation in that with Brian Elliott and Jake Allen. Elliott played 45 games. He started 45, and Jake Allen started 32. But I mean, that's an interesting split. It seems like Elliott is their primary goalie, but I mean, we'll see if he struggles early on because obviously Minnesota is a very fast team. But I mean, don't be surprised if you see Jake Allen coming in.
Yes, and Minnesota also, they do have a little bit of an edge to them. They might not be as fast as the Blues, but they have the grit feel led by probably Matt Cook. But they just feel like they have that playoff mentality.
If you want to talk about grit, it's hard to counter with someone any better than David Backes. He's a true grinder in the NHL. He makes his point. He gets the dirty goals. He had 26 goals this year, 32 assists. Just a very impressive season. He was extremely healthy. He played in 80 of 82 games. I know you're talking about the grit of the Wild, but I think honestly, the Blues are right there with Minnesota.
Yes, it will be a very good series to watch. Probably the best 1-4 matchup out of the 4 to choose from. So the next series out in the West is going to be the Nashville Predators versus the Chicago Blackhawks. So the Chicago Blackhawks have kind of stumbled into the playoffs, losing their last 4 games. But on the bright side, they will be getting Patrick Kane back, who before he went down with the injury, led the NHL with 64 points. So would you like to comment on who you think is going to take this series?
Well, obviously with the Blackhawks getting Patrick Kane back, this gives them a lot of momentum. However, I don't think it's going to be enough to get past Nashville. Nashville had a great season, and I think they made a couple big moves this offseason, and they got a lot. They're a very solid team all around. Obviously, the biggest one that I think that stands out was acquiring James Neal. He comes in and scores 23 goals. He's tied for second on the team lead. Obviously, a huge pickup for them. He made an immediate impact. Besides him, they had an excellent rookie campaign from Philip Forsberg at center. He led the team with 63 points and 26 goals. And Mike Ribeiro, who was basically cast off for nothing, for dead weight. Nashville signed him to a minimum deal. They said, "We'll see what you can do," and he responded. He stepped up to lead this team. He had 62 points, second on the team, and it was impressive.
Yeah, this series is going to be a very good one. Nashville, it looks like a great team. Just edged out Chicago to get the home field advantage in this series. But I wouldn't count out the Blackhawks just yet. I think this series will definitely depend on the goaltending. Nashville, led by Pekka Rinne. I can't pronounce his name very well.
Pekka Rinne.
Pekka Rinne, thank you. And then the Blackhawks obviously have Corey Crawford, both very good goaltenders, but Pekka Rinne has been the better goaltender this season. If he's able to keep that up, I think they're going to be able to stop the great offense from Patrick Taves, Marian Hossa, Patrick Kane, so forth that the Blackhawks have. But if he's not able to keep up the high goaltending at the during the playoffs, I think the offense of the Blackhawks are going to be able to take on the Nashville and really win this series.
I'm not sure. I think my only real answer for someone that can take down the depth of the Blackhawks is the defense of the Predators. I'm very impressed by them overall. Roman Josi might be the most underrated player in the NHL. That's the best way to put it. He had 55 points this year. Decent score. He's right up there with Shea Weber. He had more points than Shea Weber this season, honestly. You had those two, and you had the young Seth Jones. It's only the second NHL season. He's slowly improving. Former lottery pick. There's a lot to like about this team defensively overall, and I think they bring a definite physical presence back there, and definitely a good amount of offense. So I think if anyone can stop the Blackhawks in the first round with their very impressive offense, I think it's going to be the Predators.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough trip to the finals for the Blackhawks. I mean, if they do end up getting past Nashville, they're going to have to face probably the Blues in the second round. The Blues are not going to be an easy team either. But I still think they're going to be able to pull this one out. So let's move on in the West. The next game is going to be the Anaheim Ducks versus the Winnipeg Jets. The first appearance for the Winnipeg Jets since they moved to Winnipeg from Anaheim. So who do you have in this matchup, Joel?
I think this one has to go to Anaheim. The experience factor comes in. This team is they may be the most deep team in the Western Conference. I know we just mentioned Nashville and Chicago being right up there, but I think Anaheim is the most deep team, and I think that showed their regular season. They were the top team in the Western Conference. I think they will win this series. However, I think Winnipeg could give them a bit of a fight. I'm really interested with them because they've been kind of getting the pieces going for the last few years, and it seems like they finally put something together. A lot of the names on this team remain the same. Andrew Ladd's been here since their inception. Blake Wheeler's been here for a good amount of time. Brian Little, Dustin Byfuglien. But names like Matthew Perreault, he's a little bit of a smaller name. He contributed 18 goals this season. Players like that have really made a difference on this team. And, I mean, Drew Stafford, look at him. He only played 26 games with them after being acquired from Buffalo. But like I said, same thing. He made a difference. And I think they could win at least 2 games on home ice. So I think this could be a 6-game series, honestly.
Yeah, it could end up being stretched out with how well the Jets have played at home this season, but I think it's a bit of an obvious question that the Ducks will win this series. The Ducks, like you said, are just too far depth. They've added a lot of defense. They added a lot of defense through the trade market, getting Simone DePace from the Penguins and James Wisniewski from the Blue Jackets. Right now, they just look like they will be able to overwhelm the Wild. But do you see any situation where the Wild can pull it off? Where the Jets can pull it off? I'm sorry.
I think the Jets pull this off if they can really. It's hard to say. I think it's going to depend on how well they forecheck. I think that's the biggest key for them. They're an aggressive team. I think if they can forecheck, they get in there, they can get some nasty goals. They get Anaheim out of their game. They push around Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf, even Ryan Kessler, and they can win this game. This series. But honestly, I don't think they will because I think there's enough physicality to match them on Anaheim's side. However, like I said, I do think Winnipeg could win at least 2 games, and frankly, I think they'll both be on home ice. But shortly after, I think they will be dispatched. Yeah,
Winnipeg's going to have to out-hustle, out-fight Anaheim for every puck and every battle for them to win this series. So in the last game in the West, let's go to the Calgary Flames versus the Vancouver Canucks. So another 2-3 matchup. The Calgary Flames have kind of spurted this year, looking really good out of the gate, but kind of backing off since. Who do you feel like can take over this matchup, Joel?
Well, let's see. Vancouver missed the playoffs last season after, frankly, just very disastrous season. But with Willie Desjardins as the new head coach, things have really worked out for them this year. And I think they'll get past Calgary in the first round. Beyond that, I'm not quite sure, but I think this is a step forward for Vancouver after several disappointing seasons.
Yeah, I also would have to say Vancouver will get through this just because Calgary doesn't have necessarily the experience that a team would need to go deep into the playoffs. Looking at their roster, they have a lot of good young talent that needs to mature. It kind of reminds me of maybe the Capitals or the Penguins right when they started their great runs in the late 2000s when they got Crosby and Ovechkin. But they just need to get more experience. Maybe not this year, but next year they could probably make a run in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I mean, the Sedin twins are healthy. They're on top of their game. They both lead to, they're both right at the top of the league in scoring for the Canucks. And based on those two enough, that might be enough reason to put them ahead of Calgary. But like you said, I do see a bit of a fight from Calgary. They were one of the worst teams in the NHL last year. Making the playoffs on itself is very impressive for them this season. I think they probably will fall in 5 games.
Yeah, Calgary even had a guy with over 70 points this year in Hordler. I mean, they really have a lot of good. They have a lot of good young talent. So let's move over to the Eastern Conference. The first 1-4 matchup is going to be the Montreal Canadiens against the Ottawa Senators. Also, probably a very good 1-4 matchup. Who do you have moving on?
Well, obviously, the favorite in this one is Montreal for like I said, obvious reasons. They have a better record. They finished above Ottawa. But you cannot count out what Ottawa did to end the season. Andrew Hammond, the rookie goaltender, steps in, and he just put on a show to end the regular season for them. He had 1 regulation loss in 24 appearances this season. He started 23 of the 24 games he played in, and he is their goaltender for the playoffs. His goal against is 179, 941 save percentage. Easily very impressive. And frankly, I think those stats alone might get him a Rookie of the Year. He is the name to look at the most for this series because he is going to make a difference. And I think they can steal this series. We saw in 2010, Yaroslav Halak when he was with the Canadiens. Hot goaltenders are the biggest keys. If they can ride a hot goalie in the playoffs, they will go far. You saw it with Henrik Lundqvist last season, and we've seen it several times with Jonathan Quick for the Kings. So I think this series will go to Ottawa. I think because they're playing hot. I like so much about this team. You see some no-name players from like years past. They're young guys really stepping up. Mark Stone, he scored 26 goals this season. Mike Hoffman scoring 27. This team is very solid all around, and they hit their stride late. And they're just going to carry them to the playoffs.
Yeah, this, like I said earlier in the Predators Chicago series, it's going to come down to a lot of the goaltending, and like you said, it could be a really great goaltending matchup with the Canadiens having Corey Price, probably one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. But you just look at Canadiens; they're the number one seed behind the Rangers, obviously for a reason. They have PK Subban, like I said, Carey Price. They have a lot of good defensemen. They have a lot of experience in Sergei Gonchar. It's just hard to see anybody beating this team. Like PK Subban has 60 points for defensemen, 40, even though 45 of those are assists. They just look way too deep right now.
Well, you mentioned Subban. You have to look at one of the other best defensemen in the NHL, Erik Karlsson. He led the Senators in points, which he's done several times in past years. This isn't new. He scores 21 goals, 45 assists, played every single game this season. Players, I like them defensively because of him, but otherwise, the rest of them are very stout defensively. They're going to look to him to do a lot of scoring, and he's definitely a threat on their power play.
Yeah, well, it'll be an interesting series to see if Ottawa and Montreal can take it, maybe a 6 or 7 game series, depending on how the goaltenders come out. So let's move on to the 2-3 matchup, the Detroit Red Wings against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning always seem to be up and down. One year, they're going to be in the top of the division. The next year, they're going to be at the bottom of the league. It's really weird how that happens. They kind of seem to be in the middle this year against the Detroit Red Wings, who always seem to make the playoffs, a very steady hand. Who do you think's going to end up pulling away? The Stamkos-led Tampa Bay?
Well, you mentioned the inconsistency of the Lightning in recent years, but this is one of their better years. Stamkos was healthy. This was a huge thing, a huge importance to them. He played all 82 games. I think, like everyone else in the league, the scoring was down. His 72 points seems very low, but his defense in the NHL and obstruction have gone up. So, his stats compared to everyone else pretty solid. We'll look at it like that. 43 goals, I'll take that any day. Besides him, there's several other players in this team who I don't think get enough credit. Honestly, Tyler Johnson's slowly gaining some credibility. He tied with Stamkos for the points this season. He had 72. And it's just, I think this is an up-and-coming team. They finally hit a bit of a stride this year because they were waiting for something like this to get going. You have to look at players, two former New York Rangers, Brian Boyle and Ryan Callahan. Look to them to make a very big difference in this series because physicality is huge in the playoffs. You don't see those nice fancy goals very often. You see people like Brian Boyle getting in front of the net, pushing some guys around, and putting the puck past me. He's going to get past Jimmy Howard at least, I think, 4 times in this series. I see him getting some goals. I see Ryan Callahan playing a big difference. I think physicality for this series, I think Lightning are going to surprise you a little bit with how much they have, and I think they can win the series in about 6 games.
Yeah, I agree that in the playoffs it's a lot about grit, but there's 2 things that are more important than grit. Good goaltending and experience, and that's what the Detroit Red Wings have right now. Led by Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk have been in the league forever. They might not have the same speed or skills that they once were, but they have the experience on how to win championships, how to win games, and how to take down an opponent. Right? Just looking at this matchup, Tampa Bay, like you said, is going to be kind of young, kind of a little bit more unexperienced. They will have that grit, they will have the determination, but I just feel like the experience and the good goaltending of Jimmy Howard will lead the Detroit Red Wings out of the series. Maybe 6 or 7 games, but I do think the Red Wings will get it done.
I think the big question for Detroit, I know they are a bit lower seeded than usual this year, but this is a big year for them. They need to prove to Mike Babcock that this team could win a cup in a few years. His contract expires after the season. He will be a free agent in terms of coaches. So I think them winning this series would go a long way to making him come back, especially because it's an upset. But I don't think they have the right tools to win.
Okay, well, we'll see if the Detroit Red Wings can pull this one out. Maybe the Tampa Bay Lightning can improve and move on. So let's go to the next game in the East. It's going to be the New York Rangers against a very, very cold Pittsburgh Penguins right now. The Penguins did not look very good coming into the playoffs at all. So I think it's safe to say that the Rangers are going to win this game or this series.
Yeah, I think this will be the most lopsided one of the playoffs. This might be the only series this year that's a sweep, honestly. I don't think Pittsburgh has the skill, the patience, or the physicality to match the Rangers. The Rangers won the President's Trophy for a reason, and you can say what you want. Sidney Crosby had a great year, 84 points, 28 goals. Malkin scored just as many, but no Chris Letang. That's a huge factor. They're missing him defensively. They will be able to dress 6 defensemen, which has been a problem for them recently. They also will be without Derek Pouliot, and Ole Matt obviously has been gone for the whole year. We don't know if Christian Ehrhoff will play. There's just too many injuries, frankly, and I'm not sold on the current team. They're having trouble scoring goals. Brandon Sutter was the only one who was able to score against Buffalo. I mean, that's not something you really want to see. You want to see Crosby and Malkin getting in there, but it hasn't been that way. Marc-Andre Fleury may steal a game or two. He's had probably the best season of his career,
Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury has been great this season so far.
Despite that, I don't see a chance. I like the Rangers way too much in this series.
Yeah, I think if I was the Rangers right now, I'd be looking towards the next matchup against the Islanders or the Washington Capitals. But yeah, like I said, the Rangers are just way too good right now, led by Rick Nash. And boy, look, Rick Nash is leading the Rangers in points. That trade with the Blue Jackets is looking kind of good right now. Got Martin Lee.
It took some time for sure, but yes. I think Rick Nash had a great season. You could put him right up there as an MVP candidate.
Yeah, he's having a great season right now. 42 goals. Wow, he's doing really well. Martin St. Louis having a great season, 31 assists, 52 points. You got the defensive Mark Stahl, might not be putting up the points, but he has a 18 plus minus. They just have a really, really solid team. I like the way the Rangers are looking, especially how Henrik Lundqvist is playing in net right now. They might not be the hottest team, they might not be the coldest team, but they have the most consistency, the most veteran leadership, and I feel like they could really go far, maybe even win the title this year, or the cup this year.
They've shown time and time again this season they can score any way they need. They can get the fancy scoring with Nash. They can get nasty goals too. there's a lot to like. Another trade they made last season. This might not be as kind of a quieter one, but when they traded for Kevin Klein, they sent at Zuccarello over there. Michael Del Zotto, excuse me. That was a great move for them. Kevin Klein has definitely paid off. I think that was a good one. Look at someone like Chris Kreider. He'll crash the net every play. He'll be right there. He's going to pick up any loose puck. He's going to put that in, or he's going to be starting breakaways. There's just too much to like about the Rangers, and they can still easily win this series.
Yeah, they just have so much determination to win these games. It's going to be hard to see somebody beating them before the Stanley Cup Finals. So moving on to the last game, the Washington Capitals versus the New York Islanders, a 2-3 matchup. The Islanders have really made a push recently, making the playoffs for the first time last year, losing to the Penguins in the first round. But boy, has the Islanders
2 years ago. That was 2 years ago. They lost. They missed the playoffs last season.
I'm sorry, but looking really good right now. The Islanders are led by John Tavares. Just who do you think's going to win this matchup?
Ooh, this might be the best matchup. I've been looking forward to this one. I think this will be very tight. I'm going to give the Capitals. I think this could go 7 games. I know the Islanders might not have as much experience, but I mean they're a quick team. They showed that against Pittsburgh 2 years ago. A lot of really similar players this year. I think this will go 7 games, but I think because the Capitals will be able to grind it out. Ovechkin, another great season, another Rocket Richard Trophy with 53 goals. Backstrom was healthy. That was a huge key. They're back in the playoffs because of that, because he's healthy. Defensively, this is one of the best squads we've seen in years from them. The pickups of Brooks Orpik and Matt Niskanen help in addition to already having Sean Carlson and Mike Green back there. It's just that Mike Green will be a free agent after this season. Winning a little bit in the playoffs would mean a lot, I'm sure, to bringing him back. Obviously, his numbers are down from what he's paid, but he may get a hometown discount for some reason because of that. But I like this game almost all around. It's a lot of physicality. You have to like someone like Joel Ward. He's just an exciting hockey player. Like we were talking about dirty goals earlier. Well, what about Troy Brouwer? Eric Fair. All these guys. This team is nasty. They're going to score some great goals. They're going to push you around. And I think they're going to struggle a bit with the speed of the Islanders, like I mentioned. But I see them winning this series pretty easily.
Yeah.
Not easily. Excuse me. I see their wins being convincing, but I think it will take some time to get through it.
Yeah, this will be a great series. I see them going 7 games as well. But I think I have the Islanders in this series. Like you said, the Islanders have a lot of speed that the the Capitals are going to have to compete with. Halak has played a great season, 2.43 goals against average. The Islanders look really good. I feel like they can upset the Capitals, led by John Tavares, who has 86 points this year, 48 assists, 38 goals. And then after that is a little bit of a drop-off with Kyle Oposo having another 51 points. But they look really good. They kind of look scary coming into the playoffs, winning their last game against the Penguins. Against the Blue Jackets. But I just have that feeling that the Islanders can pull this one off.
I don't see enough experience on them or physicality. I think they've improved in both categories, and a series like this is going to teach them a lot because it's going to be a battle completely throughout it. I think they'll learn. They're going to move on, but I think Tavares he's going to be done after this series. I'm not quite sure that there's enough physicality. The speed is going to be good. It's going to surprise the Capitals early in the series, but they're going to recover, and I think that's why the Capitals will win the series.
Okay, so who do you have in the Stanley Cup Finals then?
Well, it's really tough to see how things are going to go after that. I mentioned before, I think St. Louis will beat Minnesota, and I think Nashville will beat Chicago. So after that game, I would say Nashville could beat St. Louis. I think in that game, I see Nashville. Like I mentioned before, I like them a lot defensively. They'll beat the Blues there. Next one would be the Ducks and the Canucks. So I'd have to say the Ducks will win that one, but that will be the last series they'll win because I think they're going to lose to the Predators. I see the Predators in the Cup final from the West. As for the East, I mentioned Ottawa's going to knock off the Canadiens. I really do believe that will happen. I like them a lot. They're on a roll. And frankly, I think they could beat the Lightning, too. I think they're that good. I know maybe you could say it could be a fluke how well they're doing. I don't quite think so. They've got a lot of youth, but I think it's going to carry them.
So
after that, after we see the Rangers beat the Penguins, and the Capitals beat the Islanders, I think the Rangers will easily beat the Capitals in the next round. I think it'll be a good matchup at first, but the Rangers will put them away after a little bit of work. And then I think they will beat the Senators. So I see the Rangers and the Predators in the Cup final. I think, honestly, the only two teams in this playoff bracket that can beat the Rangers are the Blackhawks and Predators. But those two are playing the first round, so I see the Predators and Rangers playing in the Cup, but I see the Rangers defeating the Predators. Like I said, I think the Predators are one of the few teams that can beat the Rangers, but I don't think they will. I think the Rangers will win the Cup.
The Rangers winning the Cup. That would be a great thing for the NHL, the big market of New York. So, if you had to pick a deep sleeper in both leagues, which teams would it be?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
If you had to pick a deep sleeper in both conferences, which teams would it be?
Oh, a sleeper. From the East, my easy pick has to be the Senators. I think they could make a run. I know right now they're technically the 7th seed overall. I think they could do some surprising. They're going to play some weaker teams early on. You know, you've said the Lightning and the Canadiens. You really want to play them in the first and second round? I'd say they'd be a little bit preferable over any of the other teams, frankly. I think it'd be tougher for them to be playing the Islanders, Rangers, or Capitals. But I think they can get past Montreal and Tampa Bay. My sleeper from the Western Conference, although I don't have any lesser seeds getting ahead, I think the only one I would really say would be the Blackhawks, if they would stand a chance. But that's all going to depend on how Patrick Kane does. I think that's the biggest question. We don't know how he's going to perform. We didn't even expect him to be back until at least the end of this first round. But here he is. He's going to play Game 1 on Wednesday. So I would say they're a sleeper, but I don't know if they'll be able to get past Nashville.
I do agree with the Chicago being the sleeper in the West. I actually will have Chicago going to the Stanley Cup Finals. I totally agree that the Nashville Chicago game is going to decide who will go to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think those are the two best teams in the West right now. But I see Chicago winning that game and Chicago making it to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then in the East, I definitely see the Rangers moving on. They just look way too good right now, dominating their opponents. But I actually see the Penguins as a potential deep sleeper just because of the history, how they've made the playoffs every year. Crosby and Malkin can turn it on in an instant, and maybe, just maybe, they can make it to the Cup Finals. But right now I see the Chicago Blackhawks, New York Rangers in the finals, and I see probably Chicago winning it all.
Yeah, I would say the Penguins could be up there. They are right up there with the Senators as one of the hottest stories in the NHL, but for all the wrong reasons. However, you don't know how quickly they'll be able to flip a switch. There is in the NHL, they don't count salary cap, so you can go over as much as you need. So, I mean, the Penguins will, like we said, they'll be able to have 6 defensemen, like they were unable to do for 5 of their last 7 games. But I just don't see enough physicality on this team. I see them committing too many stupid penalties. Someone like Steve Downing, I don't think is being utilized the right way on this team. And I don't see Crosby being able to keep it together. He's going to be checked all the time. Dubinsky's going to be going at him all the time. They fought earlier in the season. I'm not Dubinsky, excuse me. He used to be at the Rangers. But I'm saying that I think there's going to be a lot of physicality in that series, and I think it's going to hurt the Penguins. So I can't see them getting deep anywhere, honestly. Yeah,
any physicality really hurts the Penguins. They're not that great of a physical team. They like to do the pretty goals and make everything. They like the skill part of the game. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Joel. It was a great podcast, and thank you everybody for listening. And let's see how well this playoffs goes. Thank you. Bye-bye.